Welcome to the Harley J Way, the Harley J Way. I'm your host, Harley J. Let's jump right in.
Welcome back, guys. We're here with the incredible Justin Kent. How are you?
Good. Happy to be here.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, kind of what you do?
I'm the chef and owner of a couple of restaurants in Paris, a place called Milagro, which is a more fine dining, bistronomy kind of experience. And I have a brunch place called Zia, which is more American brunch. But through both places, I focus on French products, but with a more international lens.
That's amazing. I went to Milagro and I loved it. It was so good there. The food was incredible. Yeah. What kind of inspired you to be a chef? I'm really curious about that.
What got me started to be a chef?
Yeah, what inspired you?
So I was fortunate enough to have a lot of great cooks in my family. My grandmother was an amazing cook, but my brother-in-law was a chef. He's actually out in California. He's in Carmel Valley. And
Yeah, I know. That's where my uncle lives.
so he owns a market in Carmel Valley now, him and my sister. And Jerome was a chef out there. I remember one time he made food for us, and I was just floored that food could taste that good. And he was really doing like fine dining cuisine kind of stuff. And so that really inspired me. At the time I was wanting to get into doing like film stuff, but I always enjoyed kind of the creativity that was involved with cooking. And so I kind of started as an outlet for me for my creativity. And then at one point I decided to transition into doing it as a career.
That's really amazing. I love that. Yeah. What can you share some sort of like memorable moment from like your early days in the kitchen?
Well, yeah, I was really lucky that once I moved to Paris like 13 years ago, I had a job lined up at a phenomenal restaurant called Arpège. It's a 3 Michelin star restaurant that focuses on vegetables and seasonal ingredients. And I mean, I remember my first days working there and burning dishes, making lots of mistakes, but being given the opportunity to learn and get an education and train in a place like that was really memorable. That helped shape me a lot. I also had a chance to work for a really great chef out here who also is an American, Braden Perkins, and he really helped kind of guide me in terms of developing my own creativity on a plate. We worked changing the menu all the time, working on different techniques, and kind of was always inspiring us to seek out and try new things and learn new things. So having that as kind of a springboard to go from was great. There was a lot of dialogue there where I wasn't just tasked with doing somebody's food and making their recipes. There was a lot of opportunity to do those things, but also develop my own creativity in that process, which was really memorable for me.
That's amazing. I love that. You kind of mentioned you had some mentors. Can you tell me more about your mentors kind of in the cooking world?
Yeah, well, my brother-in-law, for one, always was kind of, really encouraging and guiding me throughout my career, especially when I was getting started and even where I'm at now. We talk all the time about different foods. We go out to eat a lot together when we see each other. So I would say, like, he's definitely a big influence. My friend Braden Perkins is always, having worked with him, I'm still good friends with him. That's always kind of a great avenue. He's always doing really interesting, creative stuff. I've always really enjoyed that and having, somebody to communicate with. The people I work with currently are also pretty inspiring. I've been really fortunate that I get to work with people from kind of all walks of life, a lot of different countries. I get a lot of inspiration when I talk with them about what food they typically eat where they're from. And that has been a huge influence on my menu. That has been really, I'd say, a big kind of outlet for me to learn more about different foods and cultures that I'm not familiar with. But probably my biggest one was when I was at Arpège and working there. That's kind of like the pinnacle of upscale fine dining cuisine, and I certainly learned a lot of techniques there. That's a place where the menu changes every single day. You're always working on new things, and it demands a lot of precision, and that that was always really inspiring, and being given that opportunity was phenomenal.
That's amazing. So you talk a lot about the menu. How do you come up with new recipes? I'm just curious.
Well, I sometimes so I look at things from a seasonal perspective. I say, all right, what are we? We're in winter now, getting ready to go into spring in a few months. And so there, I kind of look at the products that are available to me. I use a lot of reference tools like different books and things like that, kind of talk about flavor affinities, and then I say, all right, I want to do a dish of duck, and I want to do that with carrots and beets and chard, and then I look at those ingredients. I say, all right, what techniques am I going to apply to these individual things and kind of tie all of this together? All right, I'll make the carrots into a beautiful puree. I'll smoke the beets and make them, to kind of bring another element into the dish, kind of glaze everything. In France, so we use a lot of butter. So that is kind of one thing where I look at a set of ingredients that are available to me at the time, and I kind of work off of that, almost work backwards as to like what techniques I can apply where. Another thing is, looking online. Instagram is really great for seeing like things that people do and getting inspired by that, seeing a new technique, trying that, and then finding a way to, incorporate that into a new dish. I work like one step at a time. I'll learn a technique and then I'll kind of apply a few other ingredients to that so that I can see how things work and start kind of developing the idea for stuff. Trying to work on, like, for example, an elevated tamale, like something that's going to be really light and airy, but with all the same flavors of that. So I kind of pick and choose those flavor profiles that way. And that kind of just comes too from when I'm building a new dish, is like I'm trying to be playful sometimes, or I'm trying to maybe be a little bit more thoughtful as to like an homage to a dish or something. So all of those are kind of like factors and stuff. But I would say like the biggest thing is always going to be what products are in season. And then I try and kind of go off there. So some of it too is trying to have fun. I like incorporating things that you might think are a dessert element, but maybe is an appetizer. And so it's going to be more savory, even though you think it would be a dessert thing. And then same thing, putting vegetables in desserts, I think is always a fun thing for me to do too. Make, if I can get it to work, then I definitely will put that on my menu.
I love that. What's like your favorite ingredient to cook with? Like if you could only cook with one ingredient for the rest of your life, or no, if there was just one ingredient that you love, if you were forced to put one ingredient in every dish that you ever made for the rest of your life, what ingredient would it be?
Wow, that's a great question. What ingredient would I put on every dish? I feel like it would be a sauce of some kind. We make a really good kind of jus de viande, which is like we take all of the different bones of all of the meats that we have on the menu, and we roast those off, and we make a big stock out of that. We reduce it down with some red wine and some soy sauce, and that is, you can kind of put that on everything.
That sounds so good, honestly.
So I would say, like, if it was an ingredient, that would have. But if I had to pick like one ingredient that kind of, I would maybe say carrots. Carrots, I think, are pretty versatile. You can do roasted, puree. You have a lot of different things that you could do with carrots, and I find them to be pretty tasty.
Yeah, I think I kind of agree with you on that. I think carrots can be used for so many different things. Now I want to pull it back to now 3 ingredients. If you were stranded on a desert island, and you could only only bring 3 ingredients, what would they be?
Ooh, I think chicken would be one. Just one second. Oh, sorry, just one second.
No. Take your time.
My bread is here. Bread would be a good one. Chicken, bread, carrots. There we go.
Yeah, chicken, bread, carrots. That's easy.
Now I can make sandwiches. I can make roasted chickens.
Yeah, that's really smart, honestly. Do you do a lot of
if you were on a desert island, what would you bring?
Okay, for me, I gotta say, I love doing different types of pasta dishes.
Oh yeah.
So I would do probably pasta. So just a probably either a penne or spaghetti, just because they're classic. They work with everything. I would probably bring tomatoes because you can make so much with tomatoes. And it's hard. Probably just like just what you're saying, bread. I mean, because with tomatoes and pasta, you can make pomodoro. You can make a classic kind of marinara. You can, and I mean, if you're on a desert island, you can probably find a bunch of different like food there, so then I could make new dishes, and I could kind of like, I don't know, maybe, and then I could do a tomato sandwich with the tomato, and I could, I mean, I don't know, I could do like a tomato sauce, dipped, and then I could dip bread in it. I mean, there's so many different things that you can do with that.
Yeah, that'd be certainly pretty versatile for sure.
Yeah. Do you do a lot of experimenting with new kind of techniques and stuff?
Yeah, all the time. All the time. I actually just bought a new thing that arrived yesterday that we were goofing off with, which was actually not necessarily it's not something that is typically used in the kitchen, but I bought like a sealer, like a thing that seals plastic bags together.
Yeah.
And I used that to seal phyllo dough together and made a little like pillow thing. We did that yesterday.
I like that. Okay.
And then I got a lot of different tools. I got a thing. Some of them I don't use as often as I would like. I've got tools for making pasta.
Yeah.
And creamed pasta. I got all kinds of goofy equipment, charcoal grills and stuff like that. And I got pizza oven that sits in the stock room. I got a charcoal grill in the stock room. I don't use a lot of this stuff, but I have fun. It's the perks of being a chef and owner is I get to invest in the things that kind of bring me joy so that I can continue learning.
I like that. What's like the most challenging part of running a kitchen?
It's a lot of hours. It takes a lot of energy. It can be pretty stressful. You're working under a time crunch, you think about efficiency. Spaces are always small. When you're working on a budget, you don't have money that allows you to have these huge kitchens necessarily. So our kitchen is pretty small. I think there's certainly some struggles there, but if anything, it's more that it's a lot of hours. You end up, I think, sometimes sacrificing a lot, and there's days where that sacrifice is 100% worth it, and other days where it might not be.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. It really does. But I mean, I guess working in a kitchen can be kind of stressful and crazy. What's like the biggest like disaster you've ever had in the kitchen?
The biggest disaster I ever had in cooking? I don't know. The biggest disaster I ever had in cooking? That's a good question. I mean, I don't know that I've definitely like dropped expensive ingredients or, not been, I feel like there's times where I've accidentally wasted something that was expensive. I think maybe there was one time where I accidentally put the wrong ingredient into something. I was supposed to use one thing and I put the wrong ingredient into it and it completely didn't work. It was absolutely disgusting. So I had to do the whole thing over from scratch. I remember one time I was making something with a pressure cooker and I took the lid off too early. Oh, actually I put the stuff from the pressure cooker into a blender. And when I turned the blender on, it all exploded and it kind of got on my face and stuff like that. So I had a bunch of little burns on my face. That was maybe one.
But nothing ever went up in flames, right?
What's that?
Nothing ever went up in flames, right?
No, nothing ever. I've never had any like severe stuff like that. I've had things where you get flare-ups from, say, oil falling on a hot cooking surface and it just flares up, but you just put that out real quick.
Yeah.
I've got plenty of burns and cuts and stuff like that from my years in the kitchen. Nothing that's severe. I've lost a few tips of fingers. That's about it.
What would you say is like the most like common mistake in cooking that people make in their own home kitchens?
I think that maybe they don't taste their food enough as they cook, so they're not seasoning it properly. I mean, I don't know. I feel like if you're constantly tasting your food, then I feel like you're gonna get to a point where usually you're coming out with something pretty good.
That's a lot of sense. Yeah, I have done that a million times, honestly.
And then heat control is probably a big thing too. A lot of people, I think, kind of burn stuff or whatever because they don't monitor things as well as like when we're in a kitchen and I'm here doing a lot of different things. I've got timers, I've got a bunch of different stuff going on. All of that is kind of meant to help facilitate, facilitate that I don't drop the ball and forget something and stuff like that so that nothing burns. Sometimes in a kitchen at home, if you're working on just one thing, you're like, oh, well, the recipe says it takes like an hour and a half. I'm going to leave it there for an hour and a half and I'm going to walk away and go watch TV. And so since you're not monitoring all the time, all of a sudden it burns because, you know, you weren't paying attention and maybe you made a mistake on the temperature or something.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Now, I'm vegetarian, and I'm just curious, what do you kind of feel about the rise of plant-based and alternative diets?
So I love it personally. I mean, I grew up vegetarian myself, and Arpege where I worked, I mean, is known for its focus on vegetables. The chef there took red meat off of his menu in, I think, like 2001, focused applying meat cookery for what he was known for to vegetables. And I thought that was absolutely revolutionary. I love the idea of kind of pushing the envelope when it comes to plant-based foods. I love that. Almost everywhere that I've worked and that I've been inspired by has always had a focus on the seasonal vegetable and fruits aspect of their menus, and proteins are kind of there almost as the secondary, or, you know, it's not necessarily the main star of the show. I work with great proteins because I love having them on my menu and I love eating them myself, but I have always been more, I think, focused on vegetables than anything else. So I love seeing that.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love that. And obviously, we have there's crazy diets now, but what do you think about like processed foods versus like real whole ingredients?
I mean, I personally try and avoid them when I can. Again, I'm fortunate. I have to make everything from scratch. You know, we make everything from scratch where we're at. So I'm not working with too many processed foods. I eat a lot at the restaurant, so I'm fortunate enough that I don't have a lot of that. You know, I don't have a lot of that stuff at my fingertips.
Yeah.
I think in terms of like, it's certainly going to be more healthy overall to eat actual vegetables and stuff, and kind of reduce your intake of processed foods for sure.
What's your favorite thing on the menu at Milagro or Zia?
So at Zia, I do these Dutch baby pancakes, and we do a lot of different kind of fillings on Dutch baby pancakes. I'm from New Mexico originally. I do some New Mexican breakfast burritos there with chili sauce from chilies that I bring back from New Mexico. At Milagro, we have a lot of great kind of fish items. Right now, there's a scalloped dish that we have that's, I think, really beautiful. I've done a few kind of some of the vegetarian options I found were like that we've done here. I've been really proud of. I did one that was like this kind of roasted aubergine, roasted eggplant with confit tomatoes and Parmesan and great sauce, and that was super yummy.
That's really good.
It's like kind of smoky.
That sounds really good.
Yeah, we've done a few things like that have been really tasty, and I really love our duck and our lamb that we get here at the restaurant is also, I think, exceptionally good. I'm really loving those dishes that we put out. I keep the menus pretty small so that everything has kind of a really nice touch to them, and there's some thoughtfulness that goes into each item rather than doing a huge thing and not really focusing on freshness. I keep it small, focused on a few key ingredients.
I like that. I really do. I think it's really good. I remember the menu at Milagro was so good when I went there.
Thank you.
So many different kind of flavors and different unique like dishes in it. I mean, I remember the sweet potato. That was the best thing I've ever had. Probably one of the best meals I've ever had in my life. That sweet potato dish. Oh my god, blew me away. And I'll have to stop by Zia the next time I'm in Paris.
Yeah, please do.
But if you could cook for anyone in the world, like literally anyone in the world, dead or alive, who would it be?
My daughter.
Oh, it's amazing. I love that.
She's over here running around.
I remember meeting her there at Milagro. Yeah,
that's right. She was here when you were here.
Yeah. What's like your kind of guilty pleasure food?
Ooh, guilty pleasure food?
Yeah.
Ice cream, probably.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
I eat a lot of ice cream for sure. Probably, I eat too much ice cream.
Yeah. That's good. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. What's like your favorite food in the entire world?
I mean, I'm definitely a big fan of steak and French fries for sure. I love a good burger. Italian foods, different pastas and stuff. I really love too. I don't know. I mean, I would say if I had to eat one thing for the rest of my life, I would probably go with like roasted chicken.
That makes sense. Yeah, I get that. Yeah. Like, what's like one thing that home chefs can do to improve their skills?
Ooh, I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of stuff online that, like, I would say get in there and kind of actually, if you make a mistake, is to like figure out the mistake that you made and learn from it, that always is a huge improvement. But there's so many techniques and like people online doing awesome tutorials on YouTube, and like there's so many different avenues for learning different things when it comes to cooking now. I love seeing like over the last, I don't know, maybe 10 years or something, a lot more stuff where people talk about the science behind different techniques and why they work. And that also helps bring like a very clear understanding as to, how to be a better cook.
Yeah, that's amazing. I like that. I mean, now my last question. Where did the name Milagro come from?
That's a great question too. Milagro I grew up in New Mexico. And milagros are little votives. They're religious votives from northern Mexico. And I grew up, my mom's bedroom door was covered in them. It means miracle in Spanish. As I was my restaurants were inching closer to the Eiffel Tower when I got the space that it's in now. Things kind of came around in a way that was, one that I could say was like a miracle that I'd be here. I never intended to have a restaurant in Paris, much less two. And so having them now is kind of a miracle. So I figured, let's call it Milagro. And then at the same time, I didn't want to pick a French name because I knew I wanted to do food that was a bit more international. And so it kind of gave me a reason to say like, well, I picked a Spanish name so that I could do whatever I want.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, thank you. This was an incredible interview. I'm so glad we got to do this. And for anyone listening to this, if you're ever in Paris, check out Milagro and Zia. I mean, I haven't been to Zia, but I've been to Milagro, and oh my god, that food is so good. You gotta check it out. And again, thank you so much, Justin, for
I appreciate it, Harley. Have a great one.
Have a great one.